Hey, review family, keep it high, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morse, the Review Guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I'm going to be doing an album review for the new Benighted album entitled Dogs Always Bite Harder Than Their Master. Benighted, the acclaimed death grind band from France that was formed in 1998. They started with some roots in black and death metal, but they eventually found kind of a nice medium between death grind, black metal, and a couple different kind of grindy influences. They've bounced around between a bunch of different labels, and they have been very prolific through all of this, releasing a lot of albums, releasing a lot of EPs, my favorite of which was their 2011 album entitled Asylum Cave. I thought that was a really great album. But they've recently, since then, found a nice little home in Season of Mist Records, which I believe fits their style very well. And taking into account Asylum Cave, which was their 2011 release on Season of Mist, that one definitely had more of a raw aesthetic. But the thing about this album is it includes a lot of live performances, which I personally find very fitting for this type of band. It's hard to explain, but when you're listening to it, the pummeling sounds and the way that this band does play and incorporate a lot of these elements, it really goes to show that these are humans playing, because so much of the time you will get people saying that bands in these type of genres sound a bit too mechanical, sound like they're not human, sound a bit irregular, abnormal. They don't sound like they're actually being played by humans. They sound like they're maybe part of a machine, that type of thing, because there are machines that make a lot of noise that some bands do use, and I'm not putting that down anyway. I just am saying that Benighted does not in fact do that. And these live performances really do add a nice little bit of aesthetic and a little bit of spice to a band that's been around since 1998. Julien Truchan, I hope I pronounced that right. Going by the fact that this is a French band, I'm probably going to butcher that. But he is definitely, in my opinion, the standout, and it's not just because we share a name, wink wink. No, it's just because he does some really fantastic vocals, from these snarly lower ones to grind type vocals to growls to pig squeals to shrieks. He brings a lot to the table vocally that kind of breaks up a lot of typical bands in these genres that can sometimes just stick to one vocal style and run it all the way through an album or a song and not really give anything that makes it sound different, that makes you intrigued, which is something that I can respect a lot, because while I do enjoy quite a few bands from this genre, there are quite a few that I personally feel like just go cookie cutter. And that's true of any genre, that's not just true of death grind, but specifically in death grind you will have kind of this playing by the numbers style. And it's strange of me to say that, considering how heavy this genre is and how technically proficient most of the musicians are. It has nothing to do with the instrumentation, more so the construction of each song and the foundation in which a lot of the bands will build albums on. The vocalization they do, the instrumentation they do, kind of running by the numbers, status quo, when they could be going above and beyond to create an experience that was different, that was full of intrigue, that was full of tasteful instrumentation, and honestly, catchy instrumentation, because despite the fact that this is a very heavy genre, a very abrasive genre, a very in-your-face type of genre, the instrumentation can get really gloomy, can get very dark, and it can really break up in the middle and leave a lot in the way of sound and atmosphere. And if you're willing to kind of take that leap, you can do a lot with the sound that you are going for with these type of albums. And needless to say, I think Benighted does that. Some of the drum work and the guitar work reminds me of a lot of Cattle Decapitation, how it will sometimes break up and turn into just this really fast playing with shrieks, which definitely pays tribute to the grindcore aspect of this album and of the aesthetic in general. Whereas some of the times it can feel a bit lower, it can get a bit murky, the instrumentation will break up and go sometimes slower, sometimes a bit doomier, gloomier, and turn into more of that death metal sound, with Julien going above and beyond to make this kind of snarl, growl type of sounds, or gargles, sometimes pig squeals, and then it will just go heavy and it will break into this fast-playing grindcore style that still has a lot of that death metal stylistic tick, and Julien's just going ham over these instrumentations that you don't even know how he keeps up with them. He is just a beast on these vocals, and the instrumentation really complements those vocals because the drum work on this album is pummeling. It sounds like it is just being banged to all hell to the point to where it is just pounding in your ears, giving you a migraine. It doesn't really, I'm joking. And the guitar work sounds so technically proficient that you're like, you listen to it over and over and you still can't understand how some of the stuff was written, because if you get into these genres, it's unwelcoming. You're gonna think it's chaos. It sounds like chaos. But chaos isn't always what it is. It really can turn into interesting playing, interesting styles, and if bands are willing to try to do well, they really do well, and Benighted does do a fantastic job on this album. They play around with some different sound things, they play around with some different pitch changers, they put in some sampling effects, such as on the track Martyr. I really like the fact that none of these tracks feel like they're staying too long or staying too short. A lot of times with Deathgrind, you will get songs that try to go more. Basically, when you're trying to do a style that is broken up into two definitive influences, in this case it being death metal and grindcore, you can have trouble finding bands that can understand and find the happy medium between the two, because they're so different of genres. But if you're willing to play in the confinements of them, you can do a lot, and Benighted does. They found such a good balance, not only on this album, but for this band in general, finding those lower, slower, just fast-paced death metal riffing and blast beats and tremolo-picked guitars and these nice crescendos that really work well, combined with the grindcore that is just fast, it is intense, it is abrasive. The only thing that I can really say in sort of a critique of this album is, for a band that's been around this long and for a genre that's been around this long and is forced to play in the confinements of the death metal and grindcore aesthetics only, pretty much, it's not going to blow your mind if you're a fan of this genre, because as someone who has explored a lot of bands in this type of genre, we're talking Autopsy, Cattle Decapitation, Benighted for one of them, we're talking like Hemorrhage, we're talking the Berserker. I mean, there's so many Deathgrind bands. It's not going to blow your mind. That's all it really comes down to, is that this is a genre that is very idiosyncratic, and you're gonna have to really listen closely to understand and break apart the music if you're wanting to set this apart from normal music and normal bands of this genre. And I personally did do that. I did enjoy kind of breaking down this album on a kind of deeper level than I usually do, because I was wanting to step back and use Benighted as an example that these bands can do innovation. They can sound different. They can sound dense and immense. Yeah, dense and immense works really well. I think that fits this album a lot. Slaughter of the Soul, the At the Gates cover, I thought was really good. I think they did it a lot of justice, and I like the fact that they were covering a band that was close enough to their genre to where it worked, but not far away enough to where it was too far-fetched. I think it worked well, especially in that third slot position, because you wouldn't really see that coming. The first track, Teeth and Hatred, some of the pig squeals can come off as a little funny, a little goofy, a little comedic, and they're not even meant to. It's just a vocal style, but it's, in my opinion, it's really funny. But that is a very fast-paced song. From the start, when you get these gargled, growled vocals, and then all the instrumentation comes in at first, you're like, oh my god, yeah, I'm listening to a Deathgrind album. But at 33 minutes and 9 tracks, this doesn't overstay its welcome as an album, and if you're wanting to hear Benighted doing some live stuff, some interesting songs, some really nice instrumentation for the genre, I would certainly check this out. Like I said, it's not going to blow you away in terms of the Deathgrind genre, and if you're a fan of Benighted, I think that you are going to enjoy this album. The one thing that I really didn't point out was the production on this album. I have to say that the production, Benighted always finds a way, and it seems like a lot of Deathgrind bands do this for whatever reason. Excuse me. They find a nice way to blend too much production but too little production to where it makes a very raw atmosphere, and it's just enough to complement the instrumentation and the vocals. Nothing sounds too overproduced. I like to have this sound kind of raw, but it's produced enough to where you can hear everything in the mix, and that's the way I like it. But I'm going to be giving this album an 8 out of 10. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you've listened to this album, you can like, comment, and subscribe. Helps me out a lot, and I will shout your channel out. And I will talk to you guys next time. But until then, my name is J Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.